All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Give me 1 second to start up the slideshow here. All right, can everyone see the presentation there? Cool, cool, cool. Thanks for folks in the chat. All right, so we're gonna start off with a quick icebreaker. Just in the chat, if you want to put your name, your intended major, and where you're from. Cool. So as more people fill that in, nice to meet you all. We're going to introduce ourselves, the folks running the webinar. So I'm Josh. I'm actually a graduate, or sorry, not yet, technically not yet a graduate student, but I just graduated from the CS program at Pitt. I'm a ride or die CS person, and I'm going to be attending CMU in the fall for a master's in robotics.
And I'm Nara, and I'm a rising senior, and I switched into CS, and I'm also pursuing a Korean language minor. And helping us out today is Evan. He's a rising junior who switched out of CS, so he knows a lot about being a CS student, and he'll be helping answering any questions in the chat if we don't get to it first while we're presenting. And so here's a brief overview of what we'll be talking about today. So first, we're going to talk about some expectations versus realities based off of our own experiences of being in the program, picking professors, like how to pick them, and our personal recommendations, and also some CS activities at Pitt and also around in the city of Pittsburgh. And then we'll have a midpoint Q&A session, and then we'll continue on.
Yeah, continuing on, we'll do a quick little bit of advice just about going into CS in general, and then Nora will talk a bit about the SKY majors, SKY being School of Computing and Information, because it's not just CS, there's also information science and a few others, and then we'll have a QA and just give some links to a couple of other resources that might be helpful. So to start off, we kind of want to talk about expectations versus reality for the PIT program. So we kind of just went over some of our expectations going in. One thing you might think of is like if you had a really easy time in high school, or if you just think you have a lot of talent with CS, or whatever your case is, you might think it's going to be an easy ride. But the truth is, even if you did well, even with talent, college and the CS program can still be very challenging. There's a lot of different material. Some of it's not so much about how smart you are, but just the time grind and just prioritizing different things. You might think conversely, it's all just going to be like a wall of challenging projects, but that's not the case either. There's a lot of challenging projects, but there's also a lot of easy projects too. And as you go on and get experience with them, you're going to see which one's harder, easier, and learn to prioritize better for success.
And another common thing that I hear people come into CS thinking is if I get a CS degree, I'm going to make a lot of money. And although, yes, that can be true, the more important question to ask is, do you enjoy it? Because this is going to be what you're working to do for most of the day for the rest of your life. So you should make sure you enjoy it. Because at a certain point, the money just isn't worth it if you're so unhappy. And then also, finally, the glamorous all-nighters. You're definitely going to have to experience some of those, but we would definitely recommend you try not to, because it will wreck you the next day, and sometimes it's not worth it. So just try to manage your time better. Yeah, and that's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in many cases, on the topic of all-nighters, it's better to just get some sleep first, and then you'll be much sharper in order to get your work done and be able to perform better in class the next day.
Yeah, especially if you're prepping for a test.
Yes, especially. Absolutely. So next we kind of want to talk about, with that general like expectation set, we want to talk about picking professors. So you might be asking, like, does this really matter? Like, especially if coming from high school, you didn't have so much of a choice in the matter. I had no choice in the matter, but we can still say the answer is definitely, unequivocally, yes, it matters. So no pressure, but choosing the wrong professor can definitely lead to a worse experience. Pitt has a great cohort of lecturers and professors and CS people, TAs. They're all very skilled and excel in their areas, but like us, there are still plenty of areas where they lack familiarity. So definitely part of your class scheduling process should be checking out the professors, seeing what kind of stuff they're passionate about, computer vision, whatever, check out the ratemyprofessors.com. We'll talk about that in a moment. And best of all, you can ask other students.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard of this resource, Rate My Professors is a really great resource, not just for CS, but for all other classes too, like if you're taking Gen Eds. You just look up the professor's name of the class that you're planning to take, and you can see their overall rating, how many of the students would take them again, and also their difficulty. And there are a lot of helpful comments as well from past students. So you can see like their critiques or what they enjoyed about the professor. And if you go down, you can also filter out the comments based off of the specific course you want to take. And this is a screenshot of Timothy Hoffman's page, and I took him for 3 courses, and I just loved having him as a teacher. So if you have the chance to take him, I would recommend taking him. And another teacher that I took, which I also enjoyed, was Billingsley. I took him for CS 447, I think it was. And he's super chill, super helpful, and although I didn't find the material very interesting, his lectures were definitely very engaging and made it interesting. And also, another common thing I hear about is that he experiences burnout halfway through the semester sometimes. So if you take him, just be aware of that and try to be patient, especially if you're waiting to get a grade back, because it might take some time.
Yeah, some other great professors that I've had and have heard great things about are the following. First off, Katab. Katab is really just an excellent lecturer. He's very fair, very receptive to feedback. Great professor to take just pretty much for anything he teaches. Petrucci is another great professor. So I absolutely love Petrucci. I think he's awesome. If I hear people complaining about Petrucci, it's usually because he has an accent and can be hard to understand. So just be aware of that if you're looking at taking one of his classes. But besides that, he's a really great guy. He's very invested in helping people understand CS. Another great professor is Kovashka. So she is the best person there in terms of computer vision. So if you're looking to get in that field, definitely check her out. Even like shoot her an email or look for research experiences there is a good idea. She sets high expectations, especially like at the beginning of the semester, talking about like, yeah, so for your final project, you're just going to write a paper and then you're going to publish it to a few conferences. But as time goes on, she's very easy to work with and very good with like setting reasonable goals. Tan is another great lecturer. He's energetic, passionate, a lot of fun. Another professor that sometimes his accent can be challenging, especially if he's talking fast. So again, just be aware of that. But he also invests a lot of time in helping his students to succeed. So with that, yeah, let's talk about some other activities that can happen at Pitt.
Yeah. So Pitt is a high-ranking CS school, and also there are a lot of um, technologically focused companies in Pittsburgh, the city, right? So job fairs are a really like useful thing because a lot of good companies will come to Pitt. And so yeah, definitely go check those out and see if you can score a pretty good internship. And also there are a lot of hackathons at Pitt and around in the city, which I find very fun and very useful. Yeah, just because they are fun, help me gain like more experience, and also for networking, which I feel like is a very important part of your CS career. There's a small list of some hackathons that you can check out, like She Innovates, Steel City Hacks, Code Day Pittsburgh, and another great resource is the clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. So the clubs are especially good for just getting entry-level experience. There are a lot of people there who help you out, give tutorials. There's a couple of good ones. One is the Computer Science Club. Another is the Pitt Cybersecurity Club. There's Women in Computer Science. There's the Robotics and Automation Society. So I definitely recommend you checking out. And like we were talking about before with like asking about professors or what classes to take, how to schedule, there's going to be a lot of people here that you can ask for advice, and they'll give a lot of good feedback on pretty much any topic within CS. And they'll also help you get connected with like resumes and job interviews and help you out with hackathons. Just really great resources, all of these to get plugged in for sure. So yeah, at this point, we kind of want to take a midpoint Q&A. If there are any questions in the chat, which I don't think we have, or any other questions anyone wants to ask at this point. kind of just take a moment and see if anyone wants to put any questions in the chat. You can go ahead.
Yeah, because we did talk about quite a bit of stuff. We'll also have another Q&A at the end too, so.
Cool. So I'm not seeing any questions. So I think we can go ahead. Ooh, let's see here. So do high school CS courses help with those intro CS classes, or should we still expect the CS courses to be super challenging? So one of the things you're probably going to be more familiar with coming from high school CS classes is just coding in general. Like you probably did a little bit in HTML or maybe some web stuff, maybe some Java, maybe some Python. So that's a lot of great experience. What you're going to see coming into Pitt, especially as you go higher and higher, is more computer science theory. So understanding how to execute proofs, numeric theory, a lot of the finer details are going to start to come out of the woodwork. So it's definitely going to be helpful. But again, you're going to see a lot more topic matter coming into the college level courses. Cool. No problem. Great. So I think we're going to continue on then. Yeah, some advice.
All right, so we want to share a couple pieces of advice that we think might be helpful for you. So first off, CS can definitely be confusing, so don't be afraid or embarrassed to ask for help when you need it, especially with like projects or understanding a concept. You can ask other students, like going to CS clubs, they can help you there. The SCI, I think, has like tutoring resources as well, and also office hours. Definitely use them. The professors are a great resource. I'm pretty sure it's mandatory for all professors to have office hours, so you can go ask them, especially if you're struggling with understanding a concept from their class.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another note on that is like, as you start to go more into like the workforce and start to work on different projects, you're going to start to realize how much your CS is collaborative rather than just a single person working in a basement typing code. So obviously culture varies depending on where you're working, but learning how to open up to just like being collaborative with other people, getting and giving help and working together to solve problems is really a good thing. So don't be afraid to do it. Another note is don't cheat. Teachers hate that. And you might not think it needs stated, but much more cheating happens than you might think. Another thing to think about is just like making your code private. So, and I learned this from personal experience. So if you make your code public, if people can copy it, then they can put it in their code as well. So whenever you submit code or an assignment through the portal, they have something that automatically scans the submissions and finds out duplications in the submissions or where it's copied from the other. So you will automatically get tagged. They will automatically get a report. They will know that you cheated and copied. So you do not want to do it. Even like if you didn't copy from them and they copied from your public code, you can still get flagged. You can still get the penalty. Sometimes like if you can prove you had it first and you wrote the code, you won't get the penalty, but most of the times you still will. So just be careful, don't cheat.
Yeah, definitely. My 1501 professor said that the semester before ours, about like a third of the class got caught at least once for cheating that semester. So like they will catch you and it is a big deal. Also, yeah, you should try to do your own code, especially that's how you'll get the most out of like your experience and that's how you'll learn. Um, Another piece of advice is balancing classes. So I didn't know this until just recently, but there's basically two types of CS classes. There's the project heavy classes and the theory heavy classes. And you should try to balance one project heavy class with one theory heavy class. And don't take two project heavy classes at the same time because it will overwhelm your schedule pretty fast. And also make sure you know your program requisites or your requirements. Um, yeah, because the SCI I think has really good advisors that'll help you with CS, but especially if you're not in the Sky School now, like you're in ANS, Arts and Sciences, Um, the advisors, they just have a lot on their plate, so they might not always be able to like know fully about what's going on or what you need. So it's best for you to just keep track of your own stuff, especially if you're meeting with your advisors, just so you're more aware and more prepared. And last of all, I'd say is explore. Like explore other clubs and interests while you're at Pitt, and explore the city as well. It's a great chance for you to grow as a person too. And also be open to exploring other majors possibly. Um, so to touch a bit more on that, I'm going to talk about Sky majors. So the School of Computing and Information has four majors right now, which is computer science, information science, computational biology, and digital narrative and interactive design. So computational biology is with the biology department and the CS department, and the digital narrative and interactive design is collaborative with the English department of the Dietrich School of Arts and Sciences and Sky. And yeah, so if you're interested in those, read more about it. There's a little blurb on the screen if you want to take a look. And now I'll talk a bit more about computer science and information science. So I know a couple of my friends switched out of CS into IS, and they said that one thing they wished they knew was a bit more about IS earlier. So I wanted to share this with you. Hopefully this will be a bit helpful. So they're both do require coding knowledge, and you have to take a coding course, and they both deal with data. But the biggest difference is basically their focus. So computer science is more about like theory and engineering and designing programs to use the computers most efficiently. And information science is a more holistic view of it, like the user's interaction with programs, how to improve it, um, yeah, and huge databases, that kind of stuff. And um, yes, sorry. So my friend Tyler, who is a student at Pitt, he switched out of CS to IS. This I asked him about it, and this is what he said. So he said, whenever I think about the difference between IS and CS, he thinks of the focus. There's a lot of overlap, and they can both kind of do the same thing, but basically, it's yeah, what you want to focus on. So IS is about the human factors of a program, and CS is more about the machine factors of a program.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, the point here is you should check out if you like computers, that's great, and you know you want to do like a computer science type field. But there's a lot more breadth than you might think to explore if you're inclined to other areas. So me personally, I'm very much about the mechanistic things. I'm like, for like a class we had to design a CPU. I was all about that. That was a lot of fun. I'm all about the gears and the cogs. But you might not be that way. You might be more about the human aspect, about how it interacts with other people, about how we can use computers to do biology, etc. So don't be afraid to check those out and explore those other areas in conjunction to computer science. Yeah, so we've kind of coming to a close now that we've covered all of our topic matter. We do want to note, though, that we're not officially Pitt affiliated. We're a separate group sponsored by Pitt Make New, which is a church group in Pittsburgh. There are officially sponsored Pitt webinars that cover other topics, specifically about async class scheduling. So there was actually one yesterday for Sky, and there's also one coming up on the 15th, which we definitely recommend you check out. That's going to give you a lot of more helpful information for the immediate semester coming up. So yeah, check that out. Here we have some other resources as well. Most of the stuff that we talked about with Rate My Professor, Panther Connect, which is the webinars we just talked about. There's the undergrad majors, requirements, a sample 4-year schedule, and a lot of other good resources. And even after this is done, if you have follow-up questions, you can always feel free to email us. We have our emails there below. So with that, yeah, thanks for listening. And we're going to open it up to questions again. If anyone has any now, we can put those in the chat as well.
And then after Q&A, we have a couple of announcements.
While we're waiting for people to type questions in the chat, another good thing to point out is also pit concentrations, which is this link here, the second link from the bottom, third from the bottom bullet point. So this concentrations don't actually get you like a special certificate or anything like that. What it really does is lets you focus on a particular area of computer science. For example, machine learning or like graphics rendering, which you might take linear algebra or something like that for. So it's just an opportunity to really hone in on a certain subset within computer science. So definitely recommend checking those out if you have like a particular interest. It'll help you plan out your course schedule. So yeah, great resource. We have a question in the chat. What's the hardest CS class that we should look out for? So it depends, because there are multiple tracks and there's a lot of variety that you can do. So the thing is, like, it depends on your type of person. It depends on how much you branch out into the CS classes. For freshmen,
So like the core classes, probably. I feel like for 1501, it's not for freshmen, but it's one of the core classes that all CS people have to take. I feel like that one, just the projects take a lot of time. But what do I think? What else?
1501 is hard. I think the hardest like entry level classes or starting CS classes is 447, just in my opinion. That's one of the ones I was talking about a bit before, about where you have to make a CPU. So it's very low level. You're working with machine code. It's just at such a granular level. It can be really difficult. So definitely watch out for that.
I also thought that class was a bit difficult when I was taking it. I took it just to vouch for him again, I guess. I took Billingsley, and I didn't find the material particularly interesting, but he's definitely a great teacher to have for that class if you have to, when you have to take it. So if you can, yeah, I'd recommend taking him. Yeah.
Cool. It looks like that's all we have for the questions. If you have more, we can answer those as well after we go through the announcements. So don't be afraid to put them in there. So for our announcements, first off is we have another webinar coming up on Wednesday at 2:30. It's the food and fun webinar. So kind of fun things to do on campus and the best places to eat, stuff like that. Definitely check it out. Another one coming up is multiply your talents. So I could explain it, but we actually have a quick little trailer about it. So I'm going to play that first instead.
We just started MYT, Multiply Your Talents. We figured since people are at home, why not make the most use of the time by picking up a new skill or two? These are free weekly workshops taught by some of our resident experts. Each Friday we've been learning about cooking, playing guitar, photography, even building your own website with HTML and CSS. So far it's been a lot of fun working together towards something, and I'm really excited to see people start putting these new skills to use.
Come join us.
Come and join us.
Come join us for MYT.
Cool. Yeah, so definitely check that out. Another great opportunity is just to hang out and have fun, really, is this upcoming Monday, we have something called Online Hangout, Escape Your Quarantine. We're going to be doing some online escape rooms, which are really fun. So definitely check that out. Again, that's Monday Monday the 13th at 8 o'clock. We have a Zoom link there, and there'll also be information on our Facebook page. So if you aren't plugged into our Facebook page already, check that out, and also check out our Instagram. Yeah, so thank you for tuning in. And there are also links in the chat, by the way, for the MYT sign up as well as the Facebook group to stay up to date.